everyone, welcome back to Dear Society, a podcast where we, two high schoolers living in Mumbai, discuss and share our perspectives on the societal issues that impact our daily lives.
Last episode, we discussed the misconceptions of feminism as an ideology and movement. This time, we plan to switch things up and have some conversations on how pink is viewed.
You may think that pink is just another color, one in a world of so many. However, it's actually been a powerful medium that has had vastly different purposes, from enforcing stereotypes, shaping gender-coded commercialization, and now has become an important tool for political expression.
So, in this episode, we aim to travel through the ages and understand how this seemingly straightforward color has been instrumental in shaping society and transforming, time and time again, how femininity is perceived.
So let's dive in.
Interestingly, pink was actually viewed as a masculine color until early to mid 20th century, as it was seen as a derivative of red, a color that symbolized passion and strength.
Because of this, society viewed pink as more assertive and powerful, so people believed it was more suitable for men. On the other hand, blue was seen as a delicate and calm color, which made it perfect for the portrayal of femininity at the time.
Then came the 1930s and 1940s, when everything started to change. As advertising and consumer culture slowly grew, companies began using pink and blue to market separate products for girls and boys. As this led to households buying double the products, hence skyrocketing their profits.
Yes, especially after World War II, there was also a push to return women to traditional domestic roles. Pink, now firmly associated with femininity, was increasingly portrayed as soft and frivolous, the perfect color for the ideal housewife. What started as a marketing strategy soon became a social expectation, setting the stage for the explosion of gendered marketing in the 1980s.
What I find interesting about this is how subtle sexism and gender stereotypes were being used as tools for making extra profit and steering companies on the part of capitalism. I think that shows how two seemingly unrelated things like economic strategy and gender roles are actually deeply interconnected.
Exactly, and I think this is what people began questioning in the 1960s and 70s. As feminist movements challenged traditional gender roles, many people started rejecting the idea that colors, clothes, and products should have fixed identities. For a brief period of time, gender-neutral styles became more common, showing that these associations were never permanent. They were created, and therefore they could also be changed. However, this idea changed once again in the 1980s.
In the 1980s, prenatal sex screening was made possible, which meant the sex of the baby could be discovered before it was born. You may ask, why is this significant? Well, this caused a commercial explosion in the baby products, childcare, and toy manufacturing businesses, to name a few, as parents could now prepare for their baby based on their gender.
Suddenly, companies had an immense opportunity to market different products to boys and girls before they were even born. Slowly and surely, homes were conditioned to associate pink with girls before the very beginning of the child's life. Playthings, bedrooms, decor, clothes, and more were all designed based on these associations with gender. Moreover, since toys are the objects that spark ambition and future interests from a foundational yet fundamental stage, the color coding of these objects actually ended up shaping strict career and interest norms based on gender.
Yes, construction toys, Legos, science kits, and other traditionally masculine constructs were designed in shades of blue or red, while doll sets, beauty kits, and other toys that steered young girls to believe that domesticity and caregiving was the primary purpose were painted in pink. Through this clever color coding, traditional gender norms and harmful stereotypes got reinforced. Pink and blue weren't just color preferences anymore. They were social signals that subtly shaped girls and boys into what society expected them to be.
However, in the 1990s, things became a little more complex as mixed opinions started emerging. On one hand, pink became a symbol of fun, youth, and pop culture. Bright shades like hot pink and bubblegum pink represented energy, confidence, glamour, and self-expression, appearing widely in fashion, beauty, teen culture, and entertainment. While still commercialized, pink was increasingly seen as a playful and fashionable color rather than something inherently negative.
But this actually may not be as empowering as it seems. While confidence and playfulness was portrayed as a good thing in pop culture, it had a dark side for sure. The bright, glamorous version of Pinks often reduced femininity to aesthetics, presenting women as cute, carefree, and decorative, rather than intelligent, ambitious, or capable. Behind the celebration of fun and self expression was a narrow expectation that women could be playful and desirable, but not necessarily serious, powerful, or complex. Pink became a symbol of femininity that was often admired on the surface, while often reinforcing the idea that a woman's value came from her appearance and charm rather than her abilities or achievements.
This pushed many women to distance themselves from anything seen as too feminine. Pink, glitter, and traditionally feminine clothing were often discarded, not because women stopped liking them, but because they feared being dismissed as less intelligent, less capable, or less serious. To be respected, women were often expected to strip away parts of their femininity, as if looking and acting feminine and being powerful could not exist together. The rise of the grunge aesthetic captured this rejection, with its oversized silhouettes, messy hair, and muted colors becoming a way to push back against the polished, girly image that women were expected to fit into. But it also revealed a deeper problem. Femininity itself had been reduced to something deemed as childish, shallow, and incompatible with strength.
I find this so sad. It was like to be taken seriously as a woman. You essentially had to stop expressing yourself in traditional feminine ways. Being female was an obstacle to overcome, rather than an idea to celebrate in your own way, whether that was wearing a pretty skirt or a button down shirt.
Yeah, it's definitely a sad prospect if you think about it, but I was certainly pleased to know that things had and have gotten better. By the 2000s, pink started to change from being seen as just a symbol of fragile femininity into something much more complicated. Instead of feeling like they had to reject feminine things to be respected, many women began reclaiming them, pushing back against the idea that femininity and intelligence couldn't exist together.
A good example of this is Legally Blonde, the movie from 2001. Elle Woods is introduced someone people often underestimate because of her pink outfits, beauty, and love for fashion. But the film flips that stereotype, showing that being feminine does not make her any less intelligent, ambitious, or capable. She is soon revealed to be a smart, unique, and intelligent law student who is just as successful as her black tie-cladded male classmates. This movie, and most of 2000s pop culture in general, made Pink less about being girly and more about refusing the idea that girly automatically means shallow.
Pink also started appearing in spaces where it was not traditionally expected, especially politics and activism. In 2002, the activist group Code Pink used the color pink while protesting for the Iraq War, using something associated with softness and femininity to challenge the masculine image of power in war. The message was clear. Protest and resistance did not have to look aggressive or traditionally masculine to matter.
This reached a major moment during the 2017 Women's March, where thousands of protesters wore handmade pink pussy hats as a symbol of resistance after the election of the then current political leader. The hats reclaimed a word that had been used to insult and objectify women, turning it into a symbol of unity and defiance. By taking something considered cute or feminine and placing it at the center of a political movement, protesters challenged the idea that femininity was something weak or unserious.
What filled the streets that day was not fragility, but power, anger, and solidarity. The ocean of pink did not diminish the protest, it made it even more impactful, challenging the idea that anything associated with femininity could not also represent power. Through the 2000s and the 2010s, pink became a color of taking back control, proving that femininity did not have to be something women escaped from in order to be successful or powerful.
But what about the present and beyond, you may ask? Well, though all of this has occurred in the past, the stereotypes around pink are still not fully eradicated.
However, one thing I think we should keep reminding ourselves is that these stereotypes are not concrete barriers that have magically existed since long ago. They are built by us and for us, or at least for people we believe are vulnerable or shapeable.
And if they are built by society itself, they can also be removed by us. This will take active effort, awareness, and shift in social attitudes. But it is possible.
And maybe that is the most powerful thing about pink. It was never really weak. We were taught to see it in that way. If society can turn a color into a stereotype, then we can turn it back into a symbol of choice, power, or expression. Because femininity should never be something we have to outgrow, hide, or even apologize for. Pink is not the color of our weakness, it is whatever we choose to make it.
And with that note, we end today's episode. We hope this conversation has helped take you through the intriguing journey of pink and allowed you to view it as a symbol with many shades, not as a rigid sign that labels you for who you are.
If you want to hear more and explore more of these complex perspectives through a refreshing new lens, please follow our podcast and share our episodes with your friends and family.
We thank you for listening and wish you have a great week ahead.
Thank you.